driving like an hour and a half away to go hiking, a little day hike, and we wanted to talk about the Outback. Specifically, it's a 2008 Subaru Outback XT Limited. It is my car. I daily drive it. It is absolutely wonderful. We wanted to tell you about this car and what we've done to it and how we feel about it. So I bought this car in 2015, January of 2015. I had been driving my 2013 Impreza. It was a 2.0i, slow as molasses in January.
At least it was a 5-speed.
Yeah, at least it was a 5-speed, yes. It was also a little bit sentimental to me because it was the first and only car I bought new, so that was a little bit special. So, at the time, Adam was driving his 2012 WRX, so in comparison, of course, it felt...
I think the STI, I bought the STI first, and then you bought this, right?
Maybe. Either way, he had cars that were much faster and much more fun than I did, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get me a turbo car. But I still wanted a Subaru. I'm a Subaru gal through and through, and I wanted something fun and fast, and also something that was a little bit distinctive. When I had the Impreza, everyone and their mom had an Impreza, so I wanted something different. This is the right road, right? Yeah. Okay. So I was shopping for cars. I looked at WRXs briefly. I had inquired about a Bug-Eye. I didn't want to spend money on a brand new one at the time. So I ended up kind of on a whim looking at this car, which it was about an hour away. I went in early January to test drive it. It was bone stock. It had 32, low 30s, 1,000 miles on it, which obviously is very low mileage for...
In 08 and 2015.
Right, so it was a 7-8-year-old car at the time. So, anyway, I test drove it in a blizzard, which is a little bit of a fun fact, but if you're going to test drive anything in a blizzard, it should be a Subaru Outback, right? So I test drove it, I really liked it. I ended up buying it. Sort of a fun, in hindsight, not fun at the time, anecdote about purchasing this car is about a week after I picked it up, it died on the side of the road. I was driving it and it just caught power. It wouldn't start. It was not promising. So naturally I called up the dealer. I was like, this is on you, buddy. Let's get this fixed. We had it taken to a Subaru dealership, and we had a wedding to go to in South Carolina that we were planning on driving to, and I told the dealer, like, I need a car to drive and you got to give me one. And I also told him I needed it to be manual. I told him I was scared to drive automatics. I'm so full of it, but whatever. So he ended up actually giving me my Impreza back that I had traded in. I drove that for a while this thing got straightened out. So that was a little bit of a zoo. Basically, what the problem was the previous owner had owned a tint and remote start shop, and he had installed a remote starter in this car, which, installing it in a manual car, you have to bypass the clutch safety, so there's some nonsense there, whatever. And when I don't know if he ripped it out when he traded it in, or the dealer I bought it from ripped out the remote starter. Anyway, when they did, they jacked up some electrical stuff, so we had a Subaru dealership figure that out. And by the time we got back from South Carolina, a month later, it was like 6 weeks later, that I was without the car for 6 weeks right after buying it, which was a huge bummer. It was fixed, but that was a little bit dramatic and ridiculous. So anyway, as I mentioned, I bought the car bone stock, but it did not stay that way for long. So the very first thing that we did to this car is we installed a Cartboy short shifter. And when I say we installed, it means I said, I'd like a short shifter. Will you please install it for me? And my lovely husband, boyfriend at the time, installed it. So that's the case with any of these mods. I'm not actually installing anything on this car. Thanks, dear. So we installed installed that. It was so soon after when I got the car back that I don't even remember it with the stock shifter at all. No recollection. The next thing that we did was I decided that I wanted to lower the car. Now, obviously, a Subaru Outback sits higher, right? It's lifted. So I did not want a lowered car as one might think of a lowered car, right? I was not interested in having issues driving in and out of parking lots, for example. But what I wanted was just a little bit lower profile, and I wanted to be low for an Outback, but not low for a Subaru. So we ended up putting it on Legacy suspension, and it's funny because the Legacy wagon just drove by as I said that. So anyway, we swapped out the suspension, so it is now Legacy height. It resembles a Legacy wagon in sort of profile, but it has very different body lines. It has, some different characteristics, but people do mistake it for a Legacy wagon, which I think is funny.
Legacy wagons and Outbacks of this generation are exactly the same, except for the suspension, and the Outback has like wide body fenders on it. But other than that, they are the same car inside and out.
So when we lowered it, that's when we first started messing around with running different tire sizes. I'll talk more about that later because that's an ongoing thing. But basically, the Outback's stock tire size is a lot larger to go with the lift, right? It's just kind of the overall vibe of the car. Am I still going straight? What's this road? This is Mendon, Ionia. Yeah, we'll go straight. So after we lowered the car, I don't remember the exact order, but one of the things that we did was I wanted to capture some of the inner rumble that this car has. The stock mufflers were giant, so it's a dual exhaust, 2 giant mufflers. The tips were turned down, tucked behind the bumper, so you didn't see it. And we wanted to let loose some of the beast within. So what we did was we purchased a Legacy GT wagon axle back from Nameless, and the axle back had the option of kind of medium mufflers, small mufflers, or no mufflers. We went with no mufflers. We were a little bit worried because we lived in an apartment at the time. We didn't want the car to be obnoxious. In hindsight, it was a perfect choice. We nailed it. It's got just enough rumble. Love it. So that was a little bit of an adventure because, as I mentioned before, the stock mufflers had these turn down tips that tucked behind the bumper, which means that there were no holes in the bumper. There were no cutouts for the tips of the exhaust that the Legacy GT wagons have that suits this exhaust. So what that means is that when we got it, Adam cut into the bumper to make the cutouts for the tips to stick out, which was a process.
It was. I didn't really have a plan when we did that. I basically just put masking tape over the bumper in the areas to create the shape of the arch where the exhaust would come out based on where the tips were coming out of the bumper cover. And once I cut through the bumper cover, I realized that there was a bunch of foam and aluminum bumper support underneath there, so a little bit more cutting under there, and we were able to fit the exhaust on here, and it looks really good.
It looks great. Yeah, that's one of my absolute favorite mods. So I can't actually remember if we did that first or if I had bought my access port, which I bought, I think it was after the exhaust, but anyway, I bought the access port and I've been running the Cobb Stage 1 tune ever since, which I think made a huge difference. The car drives absolutely great. I've been super happy with it. So those are the major mods. It's not a huge list, but it's made a huge difference for the car. And then as far as visual mods, we debadged it right away. There was a ton of badging on the back of the car.
Yeah, it said Subaru Outback XT, 2.5 XT.
Yeah. When we took it off, I kind of made a game of like rearranging the letters and took some Instagram photos of like spelling different words with it, because it was a ridiculous amount of badging. So we removed that. The other thing that we did was we have played with different tire sizes. We've made mistakes. We've made wise choices.
So when we first lowered it and we decided to go with the factory legacy suspension setup, I figured, why don't we just run the factory legacy tire size?
It made sense, right?
225, 45, 17.
Was it 45? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're small.
So the legacy wagon doesn't have the wide body fender flares that this car has. They're basically like a stick-on fender flare, and it makes a big difference, and the tires just look way too small. Yeah,
they did look way too small. One time a kind local gentleman pointed that out on a spotted post relating to my car, and I'm still salty about him picking on my car. We know it doesn't look great, but I still gotta drive the thing around, buddy, so be nice. Like he's never made a mistake. But anyway, so we've now realized that that's too small. So
at the time, my STI had factory 11 to 14 WRX tires on it, so they're the Dunlop Sport S1 in a 235 45 17. So just a slight bit wider, which makes the profile go up just a little bit, which made a big difference.
Love those. That was absolutely great. So I do run the stock size in the winter. Obviously winter time you can run a little beefier tire. I don't mind the look. Really in the summer I want something a little bit stickier, and I don't want that pillowy soft feel around corners that you get with the stock size tires. So we're kind of perfecting that. I think that as far as summer tires are concerned, that WRX size that Adam mentioned is absolutely perfect.
So since we went up one size from the stock legacy size and it looked better, I figured why not just go up one more and get a wider tire.
I went back and forth on this. I was like, well, I don't know. I really like the size that I was running at the time. I'm not sure, but I trust my husband. So we did it.
I put a 245 45 17 on here, which is again just 10 millimeters wider, which bumps up the profile slightly, and unfortunately it does look a little too fat on here. And I don't think you mentioned these wheels are the stock 11 to 14 WRX wheels as well.
Yeah, so I was gonna get to wheels. I got a little sidetracked in tire land. So we've gone back and forth. We've had some disagreements. Am I going straight?
Yeah, you're still going straight.
Okay. So, look at that waterfall.
Oh, yeah.
That's beautiful. So, as far as wheels are concerned, obviously wheels make a huge visual difference. So me finding the perfect wheel has been a quest, and I think I've done it. So the wheels that Adam mentioned, the last generation WRX wheels, they're a gunmetal gray. They are very similar to the body color of this car. I absolutely adore them on this car. It gives a very clean monochrome look, and that's really what I'm going for. I want clean, mean, just very, very kind of understated, but almost elegant, right, feel to the car, and I think that achieves it. I love those wheels on the car. I would consider buying a second set so I could run them year-round and not have to swap my tires.
We have a theory that they look good on everything because people put them on everything. And a quick anecdote, when she had her red 2.0i wagon, I had a 2012 WRX, and I was lifted and running a smaller 16-inch like light truck off-roading tire, and had let her borrow the 17 WRX wheels to put on the Impreza, and it made such a difference.
It looked so good. Yeah, so I compare those wheels to the pants in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, where the story is, I never actually read it, but it's like these jeans fit all these different friends of different sizes, and they were just magical and looked great on everyone. That's these wheels. They are so great. Buy them, put them on your car. It'll look amazing. I don't care what you drive. So the other wheel that's kind of fun that I've run is the gold BBSs off his STI. So you wouldn't expect it, because normally you would think gold and gray. You might call my car silver. I don't like silver cars, so I say it's gray.
Definitely gray.
It's definitely gray, but still, I think that you might not picture the gold and the gray working so well together, but they do. I absolutely love those wheels on this car. It's very unexpected. It looks very unique. It's not the understated look that the gunmetal on gray gives, that monochrome. It's a little bit more flashy, but I really like those wheels on this car as well, and I would consider buying a set for myself. Adam was nice enough to let me borrow his a couple. Oh, that's a stop sign. Adam was nice enough to let me borrow his a couple times, which I think look great, and I kind of run them for fun every here and there.
Yeah, that's another one where I just want to collect more of them, so we can just have different colors and different tires available on the same wheel.
Right, they're so beautiful. I think those are another wheel that would look good on pretty much any neutral colored car.
Yeah, agreed.
Black, gray, white, whatever.
People put them on everything, and they look great on pretty much everything.
Right. Adam,
take your next left, by
okay.
the way. It's up in a little bit.
Adam and I do have different tastes in wheels. Maybe someday we can do a video. We don't agree at all on what looks good. So that's a different story. So the fact that we've both found these few sets of wheels that we think look great on my car is kind of a miracle. So I think that's the mod list, right? That's pretty much it. As the car is, it's absolutely great, and I love it.
You do have a sport grill on there. There was a minor incident, and
yes, that's true. Yes, I missed one. So in the category of visual mods, I hadn't ever liked the grill on this car. It was a mustache grill, as I would call it. It had two chrome pieces that gave it the look of having, you know, a handlebar mustache. So I had been thinking about a grill. It wasn't super high on my priority list. We weren't sure how well it would work, if we would just want to slap in another grill, or if there would be more work involved. So as fate would have it, I got a little fender bender on the campus I was teaching on, and it was a very slow speed collision, and there was minor front end damage in my car, and the claim covered replacement grill parts, and I asked the guy who was doing the body work if he would just install an aftermarket grill for me instead.
Yeah, the factory grill was so expensive because it's a bunch of little pieces.
It was. It actually saved me some money. So I just ordered a cheapo black mesh sport grill off eBay, and it fit. It looked good. That's something I do think I'll change in the future. There's that piece of metal kind of behind it that's body color that you can see through the grill. If it's painted black, I think it'll make a huge difference. So there is some perfecting to do with that. We weren't really planning on doing the grill. It was just kind of like, while it was in the body shop, just have them install that instead of paying for the replacement stock grill parts. So there's that. I may also want to mount a new Subaru emblem on it. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do with that, but for now it's just a black mesh grill. So I think that's the actual mod list.
Correct.
That's the end. So the next thing that we're kind of thinking of doing to this car is stage 2. So we already have both the up pipe and the down pipe literally sitting in the garage ready to go, and I already have the access port so we can switch over the tune easily. The thing is that I absolutely love how this car drives. It feels great. It's a perfect daily, and I don't know that I want to, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it type of thing. It's very tempting to just keep throwing parts at it and see what it can do. It would be very cool to kind of maximize, you know, the power in this car and do a fully built engine and a Pro Tune and that's not going to happen until it's no longer my daily, because I'm not nuts. So that might be something in the future. We'll see. It's something I've talked about. I just think it would be cool for
Yeah,
this
car is surprisingly well balanced for how few mods we've put on it. The stock Outback just being a lifted version of the Legacy wagon, it has this kind of pillowy, rolly ride. Like, it doesn't handle that great. It's capable, you can take it off-road and things like that, but as far as like trying to corner it, it's not great. So just lowering it and doing a better tire and putting the exhaust on it and the short shifter, it's really just sharpened the car, and it makes it very, very fun to drive.
Definitely. The biggest difference was the tires. Just this thing with good tires. It was huge. A lot of the other mods were just kind of my preference, but as far as drivability and having, you know, a tighter, better feel, the tires is what really, really changed it. So as I mentioned, I daily drive this car, and my commute is a little bit long. I've put 100,000 miles on this thing. My commute is all back roads, which this is super enjoyable to drive. I will say I don't love it on highways. The exhaust tends to drone a little bit, but overall it's super enjoyable. It has a great sound to it. I don't think it's too loud. That has not been the issue. I've been paranoid that I'd be pulled over, ticketed, or at least have neighbors angry at me.
Well, we haven't been pulled over for exhaust. What have we been pulled over for?
This car has gotten us in trouble in unexpected ways. So when I bought it, it had a very dark tint. Like I said, the guy who had the car before owned a tint shop, so of course the windows are going to be tinted. But they were quite dark when I got it, and I liked it, right? It added to the look of the car. It added to that sleek monochrome vibe, if you will. And I was very sad when we had to start removing the tint because of state inspections. But on to tickets. So before the state inspection thing, I think as a lead up, they were really cracking down on tints in the form of giving you some tint tickets. So
yeah, and previously you had driven this car for a year or two and never were bothered by anybody. And
absolutely.
then as soon as this law was on the docket, like the year leading up to it, state troopers specifically, sheriffs didn't seem to care, but state troopers would just pull us over left and right for the tint.
I got off 2 tint tickets. Well, I got pulled over twice and didn't get tickets for the tint. Once I got pulled over and got a ticket for no inspection because I had just forgotten to get my car inspected. Don't be like me, get your car inspected. It was dumb. And she did the tintometer. She's like, you do need to remove this tint. I was like, okay, I will, I promise. Whatever. I didn't. And I got pulled over again, got off with a warning, got pulled over again, got a ticket. I think you got a tint ticket at one point driving this. Did you get off once? Or did you just one?
So. I just
one
think I got pulled over the one time, and yeah, the guy gave me a ticket. And he was a very nice cop, but
yeah, they were cracking down, and you could kind of see the lead up because, like I said, we got let off a couple times, and that was earlier, and then it was tickets. So I did go through the. I guess it's kind of stupid, but I did it. I had my tint removed and then retinted. So it would pass inspection and then, you know, get the tint put back on.
And that year we didn't get pulled over at all. So once the law got passed and you needed to have the tint removed for an inspection, cops stopped caring again.
Right. But it was so annoying. It's not how you want to spend a couple $100. It's so dumb. And also the cost of getting the tint removed and retinted. Like, there was one shop and probably others that were running a special where they kind of give you a break on removing it, then putting it back on, right? Basically a set of 2 appointments before and after your inspection. So we did that once, and then I do love the windows tinted. I honestly prefer it, but it just was not worth the price of getting them retinted and the risk of tickets. It's just annoying, and every time I got pulled over, I was worried I'd get an exhaust ticket at the same time. So it just wasn't worth it. I think that was a sign of me finally growing up or something, that I was willing to untint my front windows. So that was a little bit of a bummer. I did debate trying to go to my eye doctor and getting her to like write me a prescription saying I needed needed tinted windows, which I do have very sensitive eyes. Maybe it would work, but then you'd still get pulled over and just have to provide your prescription or whatever, if that's even a real thing. Who knows? So I have not done that. So we're just rolling tintless on the front windows, which is fine. I mean, it does look better with tint. I still have the rest of it tinted, which really adds to the look.
Yeah, because this car has pillarless windows, all of the glass touches, so when they're all tinted, you don't see any of the frames for any of the windows.
Again, it's just that very sleek monochrome look that I'm going for, and I think I've achieved, if I do say so myself.
There's a fork that you're going to take right coming up.
Okay, will do. So I think that's it. That's the Outback. We love it. It's a great car. I love daily driving it.
Yeah, it's been very reliable. You put a ton of miles on it.
Yeah, it's been really great. It's enjoyable to drive. It's, you know, sometimes a bummer to have a 10-year-old car. I've got the finest in 2008 technology in my 6-disc CD changer, which, you know, I can just plug in my phone to the aux cord and listen to my podcast that way. But you know, it would be nice to have a brand new car. Right now this is great. I'm living the no payment life, so I'm going to drive this for a while. Maybe in the future it could transition to a project car if I moved on to a hot new daily, so we'll see. But for now, we love it, and that's the Outback.
That's the Outback.
All right, bye.
Bye.